Yeah, recording.
Welcome to a very important session this evening. I'm delighted to be hosting a talk with Dr. Ben Bernstein, a friend, but more so a very important person for all our students and even educators listening in. Ben is a performance coach, not just for teens and young adults, but he has a practice based out of California. But in this virtual world, he interacts with students and other professionals worldwide. And that's one part of the discussion I'd have with you is how have you adapted to the changing times with your practice? But for all the benefit of our students and also teachers, educators, and college admissions officers, one thing that's really important is to figure out how to deal with these uncertain times. Particularly, this has been so challenging for adults too. But what do you think are the main differences of the times we live in during this pandemic? And how can students who are stressed out, tense, distracted, and in your words, underperforming, deal with this uncertainty and loss of agency and sense of familiarity? And that's what the topic is for the day. So over to you, Ben. Love to hear your thoughts.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm just delighted to be here. And when I'm saying here, I mean in India, as you're hearing this, and also in California. My wife and I are frequent visitors to India. I had a great pleasure of meeting Arjun the last time that I was there. So thank you, Arjun, for inviting me. The main difference right now, and for the last many months, and for we don't know how long, are the number of different stressors. I'll explain that in a moment. You mentioned uncertainty. Uncertainty pours out over into many areas of students' lives. For years, my practice, particularly in these months of March through June, was filled with students who were underperforming on tests, ACT, SAT, LSAT, MCAT, all the big tests, underperforming or performance anxiety. But now, in the last few months, I've had a number of interns, high school interns working with me. And clearly their stressors were much greater than tests. College applications, the whole college environment has changed tremendously in terms of applications, what matters, what doesn't matter as much. Academic uncertainty, the whole Zoom environment, not being in classrooms. Tests again come up. Social relationships, how do you manage them when you're actually not in person with people? Extracurricular activities, when you can't do sports or you can't do drama or play your instrument. All the financial uncertainty that their parents may be facing, the health concerns, which are so serious for everybody, for your family, for yourself, for your family, and for people that you know, your loved ones, for everyone. And then finally, all this is on the brink of students getting ready to leave home, and yet they're sheltered in place. They're stuck at home. And I say stuck in the broadest sense of the word, meaning they can't leave. So the opportunity for exercising themselves in different ways is severely limited. And so the amount and range of stressors is just gone out the roof.
That's actually a pretty good introduction. And I was just reflecting on some of the books you've written, and I actually wanted to share with the audience a screenshot of those. So just a sec, everyone. I'm going to pull that out and share it with you. So these are the books I found online, and thank you for gifting me the first one, Crush Your Test Anxiety. And that was really something very useful for our students. And I've been sharing tips from that book very freely and citing your doing shout outs, saying that my friend, Dr. Ben, is amazing. And the 3 pillars of a stool concept of being calm, confident, and all of that was so interesting. So why don't you tell us about your journey as a writer, author, and now with this new quick course on pandemic stress relief? It'll be fun to just hear your thoughts.
Sure. So the work that I do, I've been a performance psychologist for the last 40 years and an educator for the last 50 years. I started, actually 51 years. I started teaching was trained in very progressive schools in England in 1969. The work that I do is very much tied in with my own history. When I was a young child growing up in New York City, I was a very prodigious piano player. I loved playing the piano. I loved music. However, I'm going to have to say, forced into playing in recitals and competitions and concerts, and I couldn't stand it. It was so nerve-wracking. I was so nervous. My hands shook. You can't play the piano if your hands are shaking and your legs are shaking. It was horrible. And no one helped me. The reaction was like, what's the matter with you? Or it's all in your head, or you'll grow out of it. Well, I didn't grow out of it. And in fact, I stopped playing the piano very abruptly, much to everybody's consternation, at age 14. And then became years and years of my own anxiety, depression, just not really being able to deal with stress well internally, but on the outside, I was performing very well. I graduated from a wonderful college, Bowdoin College in Maine, 3 advanced degrees, writing books, the whole shebang. However, there was a split between what was going on inside and what was going on outside. And I knew I had to heal the split. And that led me down a course of really appreciating what makes for great human performance. And I looked at first early research in the field of psychology, which is how stress affects performance. And there is a scientific relationship. Stress affects performance. And then I started performance too high, too low. Stress is too high or too low, performance suffers. But we want to get stress just in the right zone, which is the zone right in the middle when stress is at an optimal level. So I continued this study, and meanwhile I've been taking courses and trips to India and studying the Vedas and my own counseling and workshops. And I started to realize that there are 3 optimal states for optimal performance. The optimal states are being calm and confident and focused, as you mentioned. They correspond with the body, the mind, and the spirit. So I like to use the 3-legged stool: calm, confident, and focused. Body, mind, and spirit. When all 3 are equally strong, this is a very sturdy platform. So what I did in my own life was to work on those 3 legs, get myself more calm, get myself more confident, get myself more focused, and developed a system, a model that's 9 tools, 3 for each, so that I could work with students and adults, athletes, actors, you name it, to help them to be calm, confident, and focused. So it's a very, very straightforward system. It's very easy to understand and to grasp, very easy to use. The key is practice. It's not an idea. It's not a set of tips. It's practices. Because what you're doing is you're substituting unproductive habits, like being nervous around a test, with productive habits, which is like being calm around a test. So it's a very durable model. I use it with everybody. And the great thing is that, for me, is that everyone reports that these tools are helpful for them in every area of their lives, not just for getting higher scores on tests. I'm happy that they get higher scores. I'm happy they get into colleges that they would like to get into. But the real reason I'm doing this is because we should be teaching these tools from a very early age.
Fantastic. About the new course that you've made and currently linked to the pandemic situation, there's a sense of loss of community. Kids are not going to school, schools being closed, or now even colleges figuring out in-person, online, hybrid. There's also leading to a lot of stress, which is something no one's ever thought would be forthcoming or coming in the future. So what do you think about dealing with that situation, loss of agency, loss of sense of community or familiarity?
Sure. This is a great question, Arjun, because it ties together, I think, 2 of the most important needs that we have right now. I listen to the radio a lot, and I heard 2 people being interviewed on the radio, 2 psychologists, different programs, different interviewers, asked the same question about uncertainty. You mentioned that too. And both psychologists said the same thing. They said, we're not built for uncertainty. And I thought about that for a moment, and I thought, there's something that doesn't ring right in my ear about that. And so I took it the other way around. I thought, what are we built for? The answer really is we're built for presence, for being present to whatever comes our way. Ask any athlete what I'm talking about, and she or he will know exactly what I mean. When you're on that ball field, when you're in the pool, when you're playing tennis, your eye is on the ball. You have to be present. So we don't have training for presence. And presence is a very rich, very fertile ground for all kinds of action. Worry, which is what most of us get into from time to time, myself included, is a very unproductive activity. A graduate professor of mine once said, worrying only produces more worrying. So what I train everyone to do, myself included, is if the worrying starts, and it will start, if the worrying starts, how to get yourself back in the present. You can't stop the worrying from happening, but you can stop the unproductive activity of letting it continue. So in the course that I'm doing, and also in all the work that I've been doing with the high school students, it's really a training in presence, being in the present. The present is the field of action. The past is gone, the future hasn't come yet. We have to take action now. This is in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, shloka 47. Don't be attached to the fruits of your action, and you have to act. So further answer to your question, how can you create your social relationships? How can you join a Facebook group? How can you take a course? I heard a wonderful story yesterday about a cooking class online with young people, younger than teenagers. There's so many different ways to connect that are productive, that are community-based. What can you do for your community? So this leads to the second thing that I think is really essential right now, which is that you do reach out to help someone else in whatever way you can. We are a community, human community. And it's a very healing process when you reach out and you do something for someone else. Love thy neighbor as thyself, reach out and touch someone. These are very, very rich concepts, but practices more than anything else. So the last part is that maintaining focus. Life's going on every day. You have things to do, you have goals to reach. Those have not gone away, and they will not go away. So get connected with what your goals are, stay on track with your goals, and you'll see that the whole situation, though as trying as it is, and as challenging as it is, and as worrisome as it can be, that you keep getting yourself back in the present, take action now, reach out to other people, things really start to shift.
That's really good to hear. You know, your love for India and the connection with the people here is something I'm familiar with and also appreciate a lot in your insights into even ancient wisdom, not just in our country, but across the world. There is a universality in our experiences and our human condition. And this is the time when we are all coming together. And the fact that many of the walls are breaking down in higher education. The fact that we are able to do this online fair and engage high school counselors and colleges from across the world to be present here. And the word present is again very important, not just interact for some sort of purpose, which is a self-minded purpose, but something which you want to share in the world and community. I'd also like to, hear your thoughts about ancient education in India. This is not the question I had posted earlier, but I'm going to squeeze it in anyways. And there's this resurgence of liberal arts education in India now with Ashoka University and Plaksha University being on this fair. And we'll also have the privilege of speaking with seniors, founders, vice chancellors of some of these universities during this fair. What do you think is your connection with India, and where do you see education and the place of the Indian, not just the spirituality, which you always keep referring to, and the philosophy and the Bhagavad Gita, which you also really deeply study. what do you think are the possibilities of not just a resurgence? It's not about an ego trip that Indian universities should become what they were, Nalandas and the Takshilas of the world. But what do you think is the new way to project India and Indian education?
It's such a great question because I have a good familiarity with Indian education, both through my travels and studies, but also in my work. As you well know, the pressure in India around testing is enormous, extreme, and it's very true throughout all the Eastern countries. My sense is that we have an opportunity. I'm going to take this from a top-down level. We have the opportunity to realize, as in make real, that we live in a we world rather than an I world. Okay, that is the big distinction. There are those who live in an I world. It's about me. It's about what I can get. It's about what I don't want. To use some Sanskrit terms, if you'll forgive me, raga dvesha, it's like, I don't want this, I want this. That's the I world. The we world is, what can I do? What is my contribution to the greater good? If our education, and I'm thrilled where with seeds of that happening in India, if our education can be geared from a very early age to train people that we're all part of one community, and each of us serves a role in building that community, in contributing to that community, into making it best for all people, this has the possibility of being an amazing world, not a world of such conflict and such deep division and such otherness, but a world of togetherness. This is not a pie in the sky idea. This is within the realm of human possibility. We're all here to serve a purpose. Each one of us is here to contribute. Education to date, and this is a fairly worldwide phenomenon, has not been about cultivating the individual, which, if you go back to the real early education in India in the Gurukula, was about that, but it was also about how you contributed to the greater good, not thinking about yourself all the time, which is what our general education system is about. My grade is better than her grade. I'm getting into a better school than he is. No, it wasn't about that as much as it was about dharma. What does dharma mean? Dharma means that which sustains yourself and that which sustains the whole, the greater good. So I'm getting goosebumps just speaking about this, but if I can be at this age and stage of my life part of a greater movement for that to happen, I'll feel like my life has, and all the people, the wonderful people that I studied with and who trained me, the spiritual teachers, the college teachers, the graduate school teachers, my incredible wife, my family, I'll be very grateful for all of this, because that's where I want us to be headed. And that's certainly what I'm working for every day.
That's definitely an excellent way to end this conversation about being, having that sense of gratitude and also not being too hard on yourself. I see so many students not acknowledge the small achievements they do every hour of their day, and they somehow seek validation from people who are not necessarily going to help them in the long run to make any difference to their self-esteem. So yeah, go ahead.
Let me just say, I think that's a very, very good point. I think that the other part of good training is training in, as we were saying, gratitude. And gratitude comes under the umbrella of appreciation. Appreciation means two things. It means acknowledging value and expressing gratitude, that you appreciate yourself. It's one of the hardest things for people to do, appreciate themselves, who they are, what they're doing. And the little steps all matter. So that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that.
I'd also like to shout out to my team, because in this last 7 days, we put this fair together, and it's been amazing to see over 20 universities participate, all our programming and sessions coming in shape. Definitely, I think we are on to something very interesting, and having these conversations just makes it all up. All the hard work of the team is so much repaid immediately. So thank you for your time. Dr. Ben.
Pleasure.
And
Thank
looking
you.
forward to having you at our booth. There is an EdBrand booth at the fair, and you're most
Wonderful.
welcome to meet students and connect with educators from India and elsewhere. Uh,
I look
we'll
forward to
also
it. Thank
be posting some time for questions. So people who are listening to this recording can send in questions during the fair if you are live, and we'll forward those to Dr. Ben, and hopefully you'll hear back from him if he's online, or possibly we'll email you his responses. So thanks
Thank
again.
you. My pleasure. Thank you.